For his outstanding contribution to New Zealand's grassland industry, the New Zealand Grasslands Trust awarded Greg Lambert the prestigious Ray Brown Memorial Trophy. In the early 90s, Greg and his wife Maureen had an opportunity to buy some land and learn firsthand about the practicalities of technology transfer.
When I first started my career, hill country funding exploded and we had a lot of work going there. Unfortunately, over the last 10 years, there hasn't been a lot of well-structured research done in hill country. It's sad, because that's actually a large part of New Zealand's pastoral resource. A third of our pastoral resource is hill country, a third high country and a third's flat and rolling. Erosion's probably the major environmental issue facing hill country. It's a difficult one because it's a natural phenomenon. I mean, New Zealand's trying to get flat, that's what it does geologically, but clearing the bush off a lot of this hill country has accelerated that erosion. In terms of the more productive inputs, take fertiliser for example. There's a lot known about the responses of hill country to soil fertility, to fertiliser, and in general I could say that there's not enough fertiliser going to hill country. That's easy to say for a scientist, but the reality is there's lots of evidence, practical and experimental evidence to show it would be profitable to run hill country farms at higher levels of fertility. There's some new technologies coming in now around application techniques, around mapping, around soil sampling, around pasture sampling, which will enable farmers to much more accurately apply fertiliser to where it's needed in a profitable and sustainable way. I like to think that I was operating as a farmer the last 20 years because my wife and I had full-time jobs, a big garden and a small farm. I learnt an awful lot in the last 20 years. Some of the things that I had thought, even thinking as a practical scientist, I had thought would be of value to farmers, I found weren't necessarily completely applicable when it actually had to be implemented on the farm. When we first came out here 20 years ago, there was quite a lot of work going on in the industry with trying to improve the genetic merit or basically fecundity of sheep. And there was quite a lot of crossbreeding going on into different breeds. So Maureen and I decided we would create our own composites. So we played with a whole raft of different breeds, still based on Coopworth and Romney. But we've introduced, we started off with Dorset, Finn, a little bit of Friesian, dabbled with Texel. One breed we hadn't played with was Perendales. I always like the look of them. So these are actually the last of the hoggets we bred. They'll be mated as two-tooths next autumn. And these are actually Perendale composites. We've moved to something now which is somewhat more simple than breeding sheep. We're buying ewes and mating to a terminal sire in order to meet the market, with the lambs that can be got away before Christmas. I was also doing a lot of work on bearings about 15 years ago, so I used to trundle around out here at 5:30 in the morning before I went to work and put dolomite on pastures before I moved the ewes onto it. Yeah, there's been a raft of things we've tried out. A lot of the experience though for me, really the benefit for me has just been doing things that farmers do and learning all the same lessons that they learn either from their fathers or their own experience, and finding that there are real reasons why farmers don't adopt some, so might think they're neat technologies and really clever, but there's a lot of reasons farmers don't just snap them up. I think I've been a fairly practical scientist. I've tried to never advise farmers to do things that I don't think to their benefit. However, I did find that some of the things I'd thought farmers should be doing were a little bit academic. Monitoring is one thing that a lot of farmers advise to do, is monitor, or you can't know what's going on, you can't plan, you can't work out if things are working well. I agree with that, but if you're not prepared to use the monitoring that you do to make decisions, it's actually wasted time.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.